Hey everyone, this is Premier Spotter91, and I'm going to be talking to you about the Nioh 2 stat values per level up. During the last chance trial, I leveled up a lot, and I played around with some of the stat mechanics, and I'm going to be talking to you over some of the data and how each stat levels up. Okay, so upon starting Nioh 2, players have to choose a starting weapon and a guardian. Um, Depending on the weapon that you choose, you get a bonus to a stat. The Odachi gives 1 bonus to strength, dual swords 1 point to skill, switchglaive 1 point to magic, the Kirasagama 1 point to dexterity, hatchet 1 point to skill, tonfa 1 point to courage, axe 1 point to stamina, the spear 1 point to constitution, and the sword 1 point to heart. And then each guardian does the same thing. The wolf, which is the brute type, gives 1 point to strength. The bird, the feral type, gives 1 point to heart. The shark, which is the phantom type, gives 1 point to magic. Now you could already like double dip and go like dual swords and hatchet, the odachi and the wolf, the sword and the bird, the switchglaive and the phantom. So then you can start with more points in your specific stat that you want. Like for switchglaive and the shark, you get 2 points in your magic, so you can start with a pure like magic build. A lot of the stats in the beginning don't really matter, so you can choose wrong, so to speak, and you can still kind of fix it later. Just don't heavily invest in a stat if you're not going to be using it. But there is items that you can reset your stats later, so it's not too big of a deal. You're not going to be completely locked out. So the first one's Constitution. This one pretty much impacts your life, your resistance to poison, paralysis, and fire, and it mostly impacts your spear weapons. So that's the weapon that you want to use for the greatest output of damage. By Constitution, you should level it up to about 9. That's your greatest stat increase. And then after that, that's if you really want to have a lot of life or not. Whenever I played the alpha, the beta, in the last trial, I didn't really invest any points into life. I just went strictly DPS, and you're more of a glass cannon, but you could definitely play the game. I'm not sure how Nioh 2, the real game, is going to work, if you can actually, if it's going to punish you even more because you're not having a lot of life, but this is for players to make their own choice. At level 6 Constitution, your life will increase by 40. At level 7 and 8, it will increase by 35, while your poison and paralysis resistance will increase by 0.5. At Constitution 9, your life will increase by 30. Fire resistance will increase by 12. And then poison paralysis will increase again by 0.5. At level 10, your life will increase by 30, while poison paralysis resistance will be increased by 0.5. At Constitution 11 to 15, life will start going up by 25, and poison paralysis resistance will increase by 0.4. Then the next 4 segments, 16 to 20, will increase by 25 your life, and 0.3 poison paralysis. From 21 to 40, you'll have 25 increased by life, and then your poison paralysis resistance will be increased by 0.2. Then after 41 and up, it will only increase 25 points for your life and 0.1 for poison paralysis. Now, I only went up to level 80. So that's the constant that it went up. So from 41 to 80, you're looking at 25 life and 0.1 for your resistance. So you could pretty much make a claim that you could stop at 41 if you don't really want any more. It all depends on what you're doing with the build. Now the next one's going to be Heart. Heart increases life, key recovery resistance, and resistance to fire. Or key recovery speed, sorry. It impacts sword and bow weapons. Now Courage is a little bit, or Heart. It's a little bit weird because it increased pretty much life by 10, key 20, and your key recovery speed by 3. Fire resistance goes up by 0.5, but this is not constant throughout the changes. Life is the only thing that's constant for every single stat. Besides Constitution, that I just listed the values that it goes up, every other stat gives a flat bonus to life by 10. Now, Ki can go up by 20 or 10 depending on the tier. Sometimes it could drop to 5, 15, go back up to 8, and then at around 31 it drops to 3, and it becomes a constant 3 point with an outlier here and there until it finally drops off to 2 points. For the most part, players shouldn't really invest too much into heart unless they're going with like a heart build. I would say after like level 10 is a good place to stop, unless you're really looking for the benefits that heart gives you. Now for courage, it pretty much impacts life, key recovery speed, omno magic power, and resistance to lightning. And this mostly impact tonfa weapons. Courage works well with magic builds because it gives you more magic power, but there's a really quick drop off, so you only really want to like level it up to like level 9, the max, or at least level 7, just so you can get the 3-point bonus. Then after that, it pretty much falls to just a 1 point. So realistically, you don't really want to invest too much into courage unless you have a courage oriented build. Again, life goes up by 10 points, key recovery speed by 5 or 6 points in the beginning, then it starts tapering off. Your magic power goes up by 3, falls to 2, then goes up by 1, and lightning resistance goes up by 0.5, falls to 0.4, and then it generally falls off as you go higher. For stamina, it impacts life and maximum equipment weight, and the weapons it impacts most is the axe and the hand cannon. You should invest in stamina if you're going to wear heavy armor. For each level up, your life will increase by 25, then falls to 20, and then for the most part will increase by 15. Equipment weight will go up by 1 point, but then it quickly tapers off to 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, and then until it goes down to finally to 0.2, 0.1s. Strength. For this core stat, it activates the special effects of heavy armor. It also impacts life, melee, attack 1 and 2, the slots, maximum equipment weight, key pulse, water, and fire resistance. It mostly impacts the Odachi weapon. For most players, it'd be wise to invest to level 9 so you could get the fire resistance among a lot of the other benefits that this stat value provides. However, if you're going to be going with like light armor, you don't really feel like you need to invest too many points into this. For most level up, again, life will go up by 10 points. Attack, melee 1 and 2 will go up by 1 point or 2. And this is generally for about every 2 levels or so. Equipment weight max will go up by 0.1, for the most part constant, but it's not constant upon every single level up. Again, it's probably in a ballpark every other or every 2 level ups. Key pulse goes up by 5 until it hits level 11, then it goes up by 4, then it's a mix between 4 and 3 until it falls to 3, then falls to 2, and then finally 1. At level 9, players will get 12 points in fire resistance, and for every level up, magic resistance will go up by 0.5 until level 11, which then it falls to 0.4, then 0.3, and then until it falls down to 0.1 at the end. Skill is the core stat required to activate the effects of light armor. It also impacts life, melee attack 1 and 2, your key pulse, and your ninjutsu power. Skill impacts dual swords, hatchets, and rifle weapons, and this skill works well with dexterity builds. For each level up, life will go up by 10 points. Your attack melee 1 and 2 will follow the pattern of strength, going up by 1, sometimes by 2, but for the most part it's usually 1, and it's every so often levels. Key pulse will go up by 10 until it hits around a level 11, then it goes up by 7, a quick drop, and then eventually it goes down to 1. Usually it goes down by every 4 levels or so, Ninjutsu power goes up by 3 for the first 2 levels at level 6 and level 7, then falls to 2 at level 10, and then at level 10 it pretty much becomes a constant level 1. So don't invest too much into the skill if you're primarily a dexterity weapon user or primarily a dexterity build. For dexterity, this impacts the effectiveness, which is your power. For ninjutsu, the capacity of ninjutsu, your life, your poison and paralysis resistance. Capacity of ninjutsu is capped at level 30, so you don't get any more value from this stat. So if you're looking to slot in a lot of different weapons or ninjutsu weapons, level 30 is your cap for you. Life will go up by 10. Ninjutsu power will go up by 12. At the beginning, goes down to 11, 10, then 9, and then there's a slow drop until it eventually goes down to 1. Your ninjutsu capacity goes up as a constant 1 with a weird number 2 increase at level 10. For poison and paralysis, this is pretty much a constant at 0.5, then it falls to 0.4, 0.3, 2, and then eventually 0.1. Finally, we have magic. This is pretty much the same as dexterity, except that this impacts the effectiveness, aka power of Omno magic, and the capacity and life. It only really increases 3 skills, which is life, your power, and your capacity for magic. Life is a constant 10. Omno power goes up by 11, quickly drops to 9, 8, and 7s. And then Omno magic is going up by 1 with an outlier of 2 at level 10. Again, it's also capped at your capacity at level 30, so don't push anything higher if you're looking to slot extra magic. And then for the most part, Omno magic power goes up by 3 all the way up to, let's say, level 79. So it doesn't fall off as quickly as some stats, but you could always invest in other stats. For me, I primarily used magic builds or single stat builds. So I did a heart only build, magic only build, skill only builds, and for the most part I had great fun with them. I didn't need to invest in too many other stats. So for the most part, I know some people when they play games, they like to increase each stat as a constant, like 1 point here, 1 point here. And for the most part, looking at all this data, that's not really a bad way to go. But I wouldn't invest you going any higher than like level 10 or 11 for most of these points, because the most benefit for these levels are in the very, very beginning, and then they soon taper off. So unless you're investing in it, I don't really believe that you should invest too much in them. All these stats and data were compiled from the last chance trial, so there is a chance that these values may be different in the final retail version of the game. However, I think there shouldn't be a difference from the trial to the game if we're working with the same in-game segments and everything is the same. But just be sure to use this data and information as more of a guideline and a framework to how you're going to approach Nioh 2, because there, as much as I want to think that some of this data won't change, there's always like day 1 patches and, you know, secret nerfs and changes that developers like to do when a game first comes out.